Brad's worked for me, countless other people. Go to riduzone.com and try today. You're going to love it. riduzone.com. Remember that, RIDU zone.com.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-570-6630. 800-570-6630. That's 800-570-6630. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Afternoon, Spoony listener. Chef Patrick Mosher here. Yep. Hey, holy crap, I did something right. Ron, I actually shared the video, shared it to my own page, like 10 minutes early today. I already commented on it. I mean, I'm ahead of schedule. I don't know. I'm doing something right for once. Hey, I'm doing something right every day, but I'm actually doing something right with my job today. Oh, maybe they won't fire me. Hey, we got a big show today. At the bottom of the first hour, we have Mark Conway of, I don't know if you've heard his podcast. He goes on right before mine. He actually does a daily show for us, but he's with Family Meal, which is a great show, by the way. He's had a couple of really big guests on. Well, all of them have been really big guests, not in size so much as personality and influence. We're going to talk about a few of them today. One of them's right here local, actually, Donna of the Jelly Queens. I was going to have her on about a month ago. Of course, as you know, we had some issues here with a loss, and I kind of pushed that back. But we're going to talk about what they spoke about yesterday, and then Donna's going to be in studio. I think in a week or two, we'll figure out what her schedule is. That'll be a good conversation. We're also going to talk about a couple of his other guests and the Mohegan Wine and Food Festival. I just sent some files to him. We'll talk about those 2 interviews that we did up there. It should be a lot of fun. At the bottom of the second hour, we actually have Laura Brown is calling in from Ramo de Olivo to talk about Wine Down Wednesday and what are we having to drink today. It should be a really great show. No, it will be a really great show. How's that? And again, it's still Lent, so I've quit. What did I give up? I gave up complaining, bitching, I think I called it. I gave up bitching for Lent, so I will be very nice on the air, and everybody will get the love they deserve, and I promise not to rant and rave too much unless I read something ugly in the food news. Today, in today's National Day calendar, it's National Manatee Appreciation Day. I can't do anything about that because you can't cook manatee. I think they're protected. So we'll go to the next one. National Joe Day. I don't know what that means. We're going to let that go. That can't be coffee. That's Joe. What's National Joe Day? Oh, it is. Oh, National. How did I not know it's National Joe Day? As in a cup of coffee. Huh. Interesting. No, it's not. It's about Joe. There are too many Joes in the world to have National Joe Day. That's just not worth it. All right, next, National Little Red Wagon Day. Okay, whatever. National Scribble Day, whatever. But it is National Spanish Paella Day. I like paella. You like paella? You ever had paella? Boy, it's a pain in the rear to cook, but it's really, really delicious. The methodology is that you kind of make a partial, it's almost like making risotto at first, and then you add the seafood and or chicken on top of this rice dish, and then you bake that. It's unbelievable. Those pans are really expensive too. I mean, a paella pan is like $90 for the medium to large ones, but what a phenomenal dish. And it's been around a long time. I think it started, modern day paella started in the 19th century near Valencia. Or in Valencia, actually, near the coast of Spain. I think it's on the east coast of Spain. But traditionally, it's got seafood in it. That's the classic. Most people now put chicken and or seafood in it. And man, what a fantastic dish! There's so many variations now. People do vegetarian. They do only crustaceans. They'll do crustaceans and fish, all seafood. Classic seafood paella is one of my favorite dishes. If you have the means to make this at home, I highly recommend doing that. Matter of fact, I have a really good, this is a recipe from Fine Cooking. I'll actually I'll put the link up on Spoony here in a minute. Oh, and by the way, Lev, I know you're still waiting for the crab cake recipe. I actually got the recipe finished last night in Spoony format. So right after the show, I'll put it up. That is the first thing I do. I'm not even going to work on editing anything today. That's first. My apologies. I've been slacking. So anyway, to make risotto correctly, you need to have saffron. And saffron is actually these little threads. It's the pistils that grow in the center of the crocus flower. And ounce for ounce, it's more expensive than gold. It's ridiculously expensive. But a little goes a long way. You only need a couple of threads, 5 or 10, to add this golden rich aroma, this golden hue. And all right, let me step back. Saffron has a very unique flavor. It adds a depth to food that is hard to describe. It's like when you age a Chardonnay in oak, it adds this buttery texture, this mouthfeel that you can't really, yes, I know, ding, but there goes the bell for all you jackholes and Doc's listeners that have traveled over to and migrated over to listen to myself as well. But it adds this indescribable depth to a dish, right? The fragrance is one thing, but the flavor is different. You can't really compare it to anything else, right? Bomba rice is the traditional rice that they use, and saffron. It's pretty straightforward, but it takes time, right? The biggest thing is when you bake this, you have to cook it for long enough in the pan that it doesn't come out like a pilaf. You don't want it dry all the way. In the sense that you don't want the rice to be fluffy, right? It should kind of be bound together to some extent. But you do need this crust. It's called, what do they call it? Sokarat, I think. Like a crunchy sokarat. It's the crust on the bottom of the pan where it's touching. It's like when you cook in a rice cooker, you steam the rice. The rice in the middle is all perfect, or even when you do it in a pan on the stovetop, but the rice that's touching the pan forms this crust. It's really important that you get that when you make paella, because that's the best part. So if you make it and people aren't asking for it, just leave it in the dish, and then when everybody else is done eating, you just peel that part off and eat it. That's the best. As a matter of fact, there's a dish in China that they call talking rice. They take that part that sticks to the pan that you steam the rice in, or in the big rice steamers, which are huge, and they cut that into pieces, and then they deep fry it, and then they make these stir fry sauces that they put over it, and it sounds like Rice Krispies when it's coming to the table. You know, it snap, crackle, pop, but they call it talking rice. It's one of my favorite dishes, actually, and the best I've ever had was actually in Guayaquil, Ecuador, of all places. That was one of the best Chinese meals I've had ever. I need to find out the name of that restaurant, and I'll tweet it out. All right, so. There's again, you need a saffron. All right, you need about a quarter teaspoon. I mean, it's very little, and you crumble the threads before you put them in. You need clam juice. This is the way to get the flavor into the liquid that the cooking liquid that you're making for the rice, without having to infuse it with a bunch of seafood stock or to put a bunch of shells and other bones in and make a stock from scratch. So 1 8-ounce bottle of clam juice. You need a small yellow onion, like 4 ounces. If it's a large one, half. 1 very large or 2 small ripe tomatoes. So you need about a pound, a little under a pound in total. You need a 1/4 cup of extra virgin olive oil. And let's see, garlic. You got to have a lot of garlic. So about 8 cloves of garlic. Let's see, about a half teaspoon of hot or smoked paprika. Or you can get pimenton. It's the same. It's similar. It's not exactly the same, but it's very close. You need some kosher salt to taste, and then traditionally in Valencia style seafood paella, you'd have about a half a pound of shrimp, a little less than a half pound of shrimp. So if you get the 31 to 40 size shrimp, which is standard, that's 31 to 40 per pound. And I typically use the shrimp with shell on, but I peel them down so that just the tail piece is on. Okay, I take everything else off, and sometimes you can find those. It's let's see, there's all these acronyms, these special ways that they designate if the shrimp is peeled and deveined. So P&D is peeled and deveined, right? Head on, shell on is H&S. Head on, shell off, P&D. They have there's all these ways to designate when you buy them commercially or wholesale that they identify how the shrimp is prepared. But you want shrimp with shell on, and then you peel the shell off, but leave that little tail segment on. All right. So about 12. You want 3 or 4 per person, 6 or 8 per person. 1 pound of mussels, and mussels you want to. It says rinse well. I don't necessarily rinse mussels well, but what I do is if they're black mussels or green mussels, doesn't matter. Although it's hard to find live green mussels in the United States, and I got like 4 texts in the last minute. That's going to drive me crazy out of the pocket. So take the mussels, and there's something on the mussel. It's this little scruffy piece of looks like hair, like a little tuft of hair. It's called the beard. You need to remove that. That's what helps it attach to something so it doesn't float away. And if you don't take that out when you eat the mussel, then you get that in your. It's disgusting. All right, take it out. Some of the worst dining experiences I've ever had was because a place either wasn't savvy enough, or their employees weren't savvy enough, or they didn't care enough to take the mussel or to take the beard and remove that. And yes, no jokes there. All right, so you need about just under 2 cups of Spanish bombo rice. Let's see, scallops, probably a dozen sea scallops. Get the dry pack sea scallops. These are big ones, right? They go as big as U10. U10 mean these are big scallops. These are almost 2 inches across and at least an inch thick, about an inch and a half thick. They come in a golden. If you buy them in the restaurant, you probably won't see this at the grocery store, which you can buy dry pack sea scallops there. But these are large scallops that they never are frozen. They should not have any chemicals added to them to help them gain water weight, and they're just fresh from sea to table. So they're delicious. They're sweet. They're by far the best scallops you can get. A lot of these diver scallops come from up away in the Northeast. Matter of fact, I should get Barry Furiseth on to tell us about where they come from because he's the expert. But usually between like Boston and Maine, there are a lot of diver scallops up there. They're excellent. And they're called dry pack because they put them in these canisters. It almost looks like a paint bucket that has no label on it, and they're unpainted. They're, like the ones you can buy at the paint store. They have extra paint buckets laying around. Wow, somebody really wants to get a hold of me. Hey, it's my buddy Chef Ed Ebert. He's actually he's the chef for Nolan Ryan's branch. He has a company that services arenas and sporting venues. Matter of fact, they service the largest sporting venue in North America, which is the Circuit of the Americas, right here in Austin, Texas, and he's their corporate chef. I need to get him on the air here. They just finished the Formula One racing that or Indy, the IndyCar racing that just occurred. It's the only race I think left in America that's Indy racing. It's the only track left that hosts those races. So anyway, fantastic chef. He worked up in Aspen a little before I got there. So back to the story. These U10 scallops, you can get smaller ones. Again, the higher the number, like U20, U15, the higher the number, the smaller the scallop is going to be. The lower the number, the larger the scallop, because that's how many scallops approximately are in a pound. U10 means under 10 scallops per pound on average. All right. And there's one important thing with that. These almost always come without the shell. If you get fresh scallops with the shell, you don't need that, although it would look beautiful. What you do, though, is make sure there's a little side muscle. That's what helps. That's what opens and closes the shell. You'll see it. It looks like a little string. It's the same color, usually a little bit lighter, almost like whitish, opaque. It runs down one side, and it's not very wide, a quarter of an inch, half an inch wide. You peel that off, and because otherwise what happens is you cook these beautiful, delicious, creamy, sweet scallops, and that little muscle gets really chewy when you cook it. It's like a rubber band. Make sure you take that off. Now, you don't have to throw those away. if you have a lot of them, or if they're really high quality scallops like you would use for sashimi, these dry pack fresh scallops, I would check with your fishmonger, your grocer, whomever you buy them from. You can actually eat them raw, and it's just like eating raw scallop if you eat raw scallop for sushi or sashimi or whatever. But anyway, and then you need 1 medium lemon. You can cut it into wedges or slice it. That's just for garnish and to squeeze on later. So here's how you make it. First, you have to make the broth. So you take a small saucepan and I just heat the water or the broth. So you toast the saffron segments first. That's important. It changes the aroma. It also releases the oils in there. So you toast them over like medium-low heat in that pan for about 30 to 60 seconds. You'll start to smell it. But you don't want them to char, brown, or to damage them in any way. And then take them off to heat, and then take the back of a spoon and crush them up a little bit, and as finely as you can. It's really important. This releases all the color. And if you've ever worked with saffron before, I see a lot of actual very good chefs make this mistake. They throw in the whole saffron threads. And so what ends up happening is you have, you get a bite of saffron in your paella or in your, whatever you happen to be making with a paella, with the saffron in it, which it's not good. Those threads don't taste good. They're kind of an annoyance, right? It's like throwing leaving a bay leaf in the soup. You just don't do it. Did you know that's like one of the major choking hazards? One of the main reasons people choke when they eat soup is bay leaf left in the dish. So don't do that at home either. All right, so then you add the clam juice and you bring it to a boil over high heat, and then just immediately take it off the flame and just let it set to infuse, and leave it there until you're ready to use the liquid in general. All right, so you peel the onion and cut it in half, and then or cut it in half, then peel it. And then grate the onion on the largest holes of a grater box, okay? And it should give you about a third of a cup of onion. This is important because you want this infused into the entire dish, but you don't want a puree of onion, right? So instead of dicing it, it's much more effective. And then you cut the tomatoes half. So I typically cut them horizontally. So I cut not top to bottom, side to side. So you cut it along the equator. And the reason you do this is, well, it's twofold. After I do that, you scrape the seeds out. If you squeeze the tomato, you have all the dividers in there. If you cut vertically, you can't see that, right? You don't see where the seeds are. If you cut side to side along the equator of a tomato, yes, they have an equator, or at least a virtual equator. Then when you squeeze them, you get all that gooey stuff that surrounds the seed. All that stuff, I take all that out. Then you take and you grate those on the box grater the same way all the way down to the skin. It should give you about one and a quarter cups of tomato pulp and juice. All right. Now you take a 16-inch paella pan, and over medium heat you heat it until it'll be pretty warm. You don't want it smoking hot yet. You take a quarter cup of the oil, put it in there, and when it's hot, you add the onion first. And then you cook the onion in the center of the pan, and you just stir it a little bit occasionally. You have to do it all the time until it softens and starts to darken a little bit. So it's going to start to turn that. It's going to go from like the opaque white because you've grated it to kind of a slightly yellow hue, and then to golden brown. When it starts to get that yellow hue in it, that's okay. That's when you start to. That's it. It takes about 4 minutes. Then you put the tomato pulp, the chopped in whole garlic. How do we do the garlic anyway? Dun, dun, dun. Oh, so garlic. You need 8 cloves of garlic. So four are going to be finely minced up, and the other 4 are going to be peeled, but you leave them whole. All right, those are not to be eaten. They're just they're visual, but then they also infuse the entire dish. All right, so then you throw in the garlic. You never throw the garlic in first because it burns very quickly. So onion first, tomato, garlic, and then pimenton, which is the paprika, smoked paprika, or sweet paprika, or pimenton if that's what you're using. Excuse me. And then you put in a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and you just cook the mixture until it gets like a deep dark red. All right. It takes about 30 or 40 minutes. It takes a long time, and you do it very slowly, and you have to kind of stir the entire time. It's like making risotto. It's important to not walk away from the pan, because the minute you do it, it's gonna burn. Pardon me. So you adjust the heat as needed. You know, just you want to keep that consistent heat in the pan, which means sometimes you have to turn the flame down. Do not let it burn, because you have to start from scratch. The dish is ruined. If it starts to stick, you can add a little water and scrape it down, deglaze the pan, right? All right, so now you take the shrimp and mussels. Well, the sofrito is cooking, right? That's the sofrito is what you made of in the pan. You put the shrimp shell. So here's what you do: take the shrimp shells and you put them in a 4-quart saucepan, and you toast them like you did the saffron over high heat. Just keep stirring for about 2 to 3 minutes, and they'll dry out and they'll turn pink, really, really bright pink. Add about 5 cups of water, bring it to a boil, and then you can pick through the mussels. Usually they come in like a 2-pound bag. Sometimes they're 3 pounds. You can get 1 pound at a time. It's typically a 2-pound bag. Pick through and find the smallest mussels you can find. They're going to be really small usually. Find the smallest 12, maybe the smallest dozen, and then remove the beards, make sure they're out, and you throw those into the boiling water, right? You put the rest, you can hold the rest in the refrigerator. They'll still stay alive for quite a while, but throw those in and use them in the stock. You just cover it, reduce it to low, and let it go for about 10 minutes. The thing with seafood stock is if you simmer it too long, it gets bitter, and not good. You don't want that. Oh, we have 4 minutes left. I got to hurry. All right. At that point, then you take the saffron clam broth, right? After you add the water, you've simmered for about 10 minutes, strain the broth first. Put it into a clean pan, like a 2-quart pan is enough. And then you can take the shells out and take the mussels out of there. You don't want to leave them in the broth. And then you add the saffron clam broth and 1.5 teaspoons of salt to the shrimp mussel broth. And now you have this that's your cooking liquid, right? So just like making risotto, you're going to add this a little at a time. All right, so take out this is going to give you, what do you end up with? You add about 6 cups plus whatever we had from the saffron broth. You're going to have about 8 cups of liquid. So you're going to take out about 5.25 cups of liquid, and you're going to reserve the rest. All right. So to make the paella really quick, when the sofrito turns red in the pan, that's the mixture, the tomato, onion, garlic, and paprika mixture. You're going to take the rice and you're going to add it to the pan, and you're going to actually cook it in that sofrito mixture. What that does is it toasts the rice just a little bit, and that's important. It gives it a whole nother flavor. Just like making risotto, you want to coat it with that sofrito like you would coat the risotto rice, the arborio rice you'd use for risotto. You want to coat it with that mixture and make sure it's really covered. It takes 1 to 2 minutes. You want to toast it a little bit, get it all covered, and then spread it evenly on the base of the pan. Then increase, and this is over like medium, low heat, depending on how high your burners are, how big and how hot they are. Then spread the rice evenly, and then you're going to add. You can increase the heat up to high, okay, and slowly pour in that 5.25 cups that we reserved or we took out. You're going to add that in, and don't add it quickly. Slowly pour it over the entire surface, moving as you're pouring it in, because you don't want to disturb the rice where it is. Otherwise, you don't get that nice crust on the bottom, right? So after you get that all in there, making sure it stays just in a flat layer, right? Don't stir the rice from here on out. You never touch it again. That's it. So you bring it to a boil, adjust the heat down, all right? You want it to simmer, but you don't want to burn the rice. And then you want to reposition the pan so that you get an even heating of that pan. It's only a 16-inch pan, so if you have one large burner, it should cover it. All right. Then, so you want to get it so the bubbles at the edge are smaller than the ones in the middle. Because what happens is the pan slopes upwards toward at the outside, and so you have a more shallow, a thinner layer of rice at that point. So you need less heat out there. All right, so you want to basically keep simmering, all right, until the rice is at the same level as the broth. So it takes about 5 to 8 minutes, depending on how big your pan is, how hot your stove is, so on and so forth. All right, at that point, you take the mussels and you put them out of the broth, and you put them evenly in the pan. and then you lower the heat so the broth, you want it to be a low simmer at that point. Wait about 5 minutes. You put the shrimp in the pan, the rest of the mussels, and then you just you push them down in the rice a little bit. And then once the liquid is absorbed and the rice is tender, but still kind of firm, all right, you have to taste kind of some of the rice. It'll be undercooked like with arborio rice with risotto. Then you need to, it's about 18 minutes to get there. Then it needs to get to that point. If there's any broth that seems to be evaporating, you want to reduce the heat slightly, cover with some sheets of foil, all right, so it steams the top, and then you add a little more broth if you need to, 1/4 cup at a time, and then you just let it go. At this point, you could actually finish cooking it in the oven, right? So anyway, we'll finish this real quick when we come back. Mark Conway is going to be joining us. I need to open up the phone lines, and hey, paella, join us. Come right back. Food Biz Pro, Patrick Mosher. I'll be here.
Follow Chef Patrick Mosher on Twitter @FoodBiz. If you are trying to quit drinking or doing too many drugs, listen to me. You don't know me and we'll never meet. I had a problem like you once. I drank and used to party a little too much till it got out of control and almost ruined my life. I realized I needed help to fix my problem before it totally destroyed me. If you've tried to fix your drinking and drug problem and you know you can't do it alone, you need to call the National Treatment Advisors. They'll immerse you into a 30-day program to replace your old habits with new habits and totally change your life. And if you have PPO private health insurance, the entire program may be covered. Fix your problem right now before it gets any worse. Get clean. Call now and learn more. 800-296-1252. 800-296-1252. 800-296-1252. 800-296-1252.
It looks like you're losing.
I am.
Are you losing weight?
I am losing. I've lost about 10 pounds.
How are you doing it?
It's a funny name, but I've done it with Riduzone. RIDUzone.com, and the stuff works. It's, you get into all that, the molecule this and the found in that. All I can tell you is it makes you feel full, and it keeps your mind off of wanting to overeat.
And also boosts your metabolism, so you're burning more.
Yeah,
Try it today. It's going to work for you like it's worked for Brad and countless other people. Riduzone.com. RIDUzone.com.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395. 800-709-4395.
I used to think I needed a cooler intro. Actually, now I noticed myself kind of dancing around here, so I guess I like it now. I don't know why I didn't like it before. I guess I did like it. I thought, anyway, I like it a lot. And by the way, Rob Carson, you were just texting me about where to go to get intro, outro music. Audioblocks.com. Nope, they're not a sponsor, but they have great unlicensed music clips. They got stuff that sounds like anything you want. I'm sure you got the text, and hopefully you're listening. Anyway, let's finish up this paella before Mark calls in here really quickly. All right, so again, this isn't a perfect science, all right? But once you get, again, that rice down to the broth down to the level of the rice, taste a couple of grains. Again, they should be still tender but firm. They're not fully cooked through. And then at that point, that's when you put the foil sheets over and you keep cooking. Reduce the heat a little bit. And then if it looks like the broth is going to evaporate out and you're going to run out and you're going to burn it, just add 1/4 cup at a time. That's it. If the mussels or shrimp are a little undercooked by the time the rice is done, then cover loosely with foil. That's it. That's all you need. All right, so while it cooks, then season the scallops with salt. Heat the remaining 2 tablespoons of oil in a 10-inch non-stick pan or cast iron, and then get that till you want those really hot till they almost are smoking, and then you put the scallops in and cook until they're nice and brown on one side, and then flip them and cook till they're nice and brown on the other side, and that's it for that until So it's about 2 to 3 minutes per side, right? You take those out, and you don't want them cooked all the way through. It says, if you read a recipe, it'll say till they're browned and cooked, just cooked through. If scallops are cooked through when you put them in the dish, they're going to be dry and rubbery by the time you eat them. So you don't want them cooked all the way through. You want them just a little bit underdone, and then they'll finish on the dish. And I actually like scallops should be almost raw in the middle, like they should be cooked rare and not gelatinous, but you want them undercooked because otherwise they turn to rubber. All right, so as soon as the rice is done, it's probably, the whole dish takes about an hour to make. So when you're at that hour mark after all this, pretty close to that, then you want to arrange the scallops on top, and that's it. You want to make sure that the caramelized, take all the foil off, arrange the scallops, look underneath, check underneath the rice. All right, you want it to be kind of sticking to the spoon a little bit. Okay, it'll have resistance at the bottom of the pan, and check in several places, and if it's not sticking to the pan, you need to increase the heat. It needs to stick to the pan to have that right crunch and texture and flavor. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. Once you get it to stick, again, not burn, and it'll kind of start to crackle. You'll hear it when it's ready, and when you're trying to lift the rice, and there's kind of some resistance when you're trying to stick the spoon under there and pry it up. Then it takes about 1 to 2 minutes after you increase that heat. You're done. If you smell any burning, immediately remove it from the heat. Remove the pan from the stove, and that's it. Typically, I'd cover the pan for like 3 to 5 minutes or 5 to 10 minutes, depending on how large your seafood pieces are. I just cover them loosely with a dish towel or a larger hand, like a hand towel or two, and just let them steam for a little bit, and that's it. Put the lemons around the edge. Lemon wedges, and you're ready to go. Just scoop it out of the pan. You can serve it with like gazpacho shots. If you don't know what gazpacho is, the kind of a rustic, raw, uncooked tomato base vegetable soup. We'll talk about that another day, but that's one of my favorite soups. Anyway, Mark Conway, if you're listening, I know you're there somewhere. Go give us a call when you're ready. In the meantime, man, I love paella, and if you've never had it, it's awesome. That saffron in the broth, it turns everything this gold and yellow hue. It's fantastic. Yep, there's Mark. Okay. He says he's on the line. Let me refresh here. There we go. There you are. See, I knew it. All right. Hey, folks, let's see. Chef Mark Conway, you with us?
I am. How you doing?
Good, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Talking about paella. I did not know it was National Paella Day. National Spanish Paella Day, which in Spain would just be National Paella Day. But here, apparently, it's National... I didn't know there was paella outside of Spain originally, but apparently.
Does Spain have a National Paella Day?
Yeah, I think they just call it... I don't know. That's a good question. I know... what was it like... a couple of weeks ago, there was a day the day was National French Baguette Day. In France, don't they just say National Bread Day? I mean, I don't know.
If they have a national day.
I know. Yeah, we have a national day for everything here. We have a National Underdog Day. It's on my birthday every year.
We literally have a national day for everything. That's for sure.
Well, what was the one? Let me see. There was something in here today. There's always some goofy. So Manatee Appreciation Day. Okay, manatees are kind of cool. I get it. National Joe Day. So is there a National Pat Day for my name? Is there a National Mark Day? National Little Red Wagon Day. What the hell do we have a National Little Red Wagon Day? And National Scribble.
Somebody got a petition.
For what? But for what? Are we trying to preserve the American tradition that is the Little Red Wagon?
I think if you probably looked at how you get a national day, it's probably remarkably easy.
No, it is. I mean, you just simply send in the application, right? But I'm trying to figure out. So it was founded by. Oh, there you go. I knew it. I almost guessed this one. It was founded by Radio Flyer. The old Radio Flyer Red Wagons. It was in honor of their upcoming 100th anniversary back in 2016. So, whatever. I mean, okay, it is what it is. It's all more. It's like Valentine's Day. Don't get me wrong. I know everybody has their love, their sweetheart. You know, we all have those people we love. That one special person. But it's still a made-up holiday. I'm just saying. Sorry.
I mean, there's a lot of them. But, I'll take a Cinco de Mayo, and I'll take a St. Patty's Day and all those things.
Yeah, no, so don't get me wrong. Me too. I mean, I just, I don't know. Maybe I do. I think the biggest pet peeve I have with that is it's always such a crappy day in the restaurant when that happens, you know? It's like Valentine's Day, the 3 days before and the 2 days after are like amateur diners night. Really. I mean, it's like Friday versus Saturday in the restaurant. And no offense to all the wonderful diners out there. Without you, I would not have been able to have this wonderful career. I wouldn't be where I am today. But it seems like Friday seems to be amateur night as far as date night goes. And then Saturday seems to be like the professional date night. Now, Tuesdays and Wednesdays, that's like date night with your long-term spouse. Those are the people who get it and come when it's not date night, right?
See, I will say this, though. I think that your days like Valentine's Day and some of these other days, especially when you're parents and you've got all this other stuff going around, at least those couple of days a year come around that almost force you to stop and take a minute and enjoy your significant other. Whereas, it's very easy in the hustle and bustle of a week to just keep going and going and going and going.
See, Mark, and that is why we have you on here as the voice of reason, right? That's why we have you on here to remind me. And also, but those are very important days of the year for restaurants. Mother's Day, Easter, Valentine's Day, extremely important because we do sometimes triple and quadruple the average weekend volume on those days. And, most restaurants rely on that income to survive the year. So you're right. And you're right. That is a great reminder right there. It doesn't matter if it's a legitimate, holiday. It's a holiday. It's been deemed a holiday. It's purposeful. There was a reason for it. And sometimes that needs to be reason enough. Needs to be more than reason enough just to slow down and appreciate the reason that we're all around anyway. Good point. I retract my statement that it's a kind of useless made-up holiday because it's not. All right, Mark, I'm going to listen to you more often. I think you need to call and give me coach me and counsel me on a few things here. How to be a little more diplomatic and look at things from a less jaded perspective, perhaps. But no, that was a good point. But so what's new, man? You got back from Puerto Rico. You gave us those wonderful updates.
Yep.
Have you lost the poundage you gained down there?
I really hope so, man. I felt like I was in a meat coma between Cleveland and Puerto Rico.
Dude, I'm so... You know what I did find out, though? There is so you have the CAB council that you went to up there, right?
Yep.
I want to say that it's the... I need to feed the National... I think it's the National Angus Association. It's like right down the street from me. Literally, like less than a half mile, right here off of the airport freeway. I need to go visit them. I need to go say hi. And what do you got cooking?
You got to just do some regular remotes from there.
Oh, dude, I just want them to. Look, we just need connections. What I want to do is, I think one of the issues CMB, our corporation here, which owns the two current channels, Spoony and our sister over there. One of the issues that we see with these national media broadcasting companies, and there's a local one where everybody used to work with that we just won't talk about now because they do a great job. They have their own thing going on. But they don't own their backyard, right? They have this big presence nationwide, but nobody knows that they're even in that town. Well, for us, especially for Spoony, the Dallas-Fort Worth, and so this is part of the business side of what we do, Dallas-Fort Worth is the fifth largest, soon, like in the next year or two, to be the fourth largest media market in the country. And as one of those media markets, it's a huge influencing market to all those smaller markets. And I mean, there's like 7.1 million people in the Dallas-Fort Worth greater Metroplex area. That's huge. So one of the things people don't do is they don't take advantage of that. Even though we have a worldwide platform to broadcast on, if you don't own your backyard and you don't interact with the community and you don't somehow get involved, I think you miss out on a huge opportunity to have a voice, be known, be heard rather, and have some sort of influence. So that's what we're attempting to do, is really get involved at a local level, including local television shows. We were working on it earlier, then of course we had the tragedy, so we're back on track with that, and pretty soon I should be on some of the local morning segments. Anyway, it's going to be fun. So
I think that's a big deal. I mean, it's always important to be involved in the community you're in, and that gives you a foundation to be involved in the communities around you.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And it is very important, I think, and people tend to overlook that sometimes. So, you've had some great guests on. I mean, you've had all of them been great guests. I mean, you've had interview after interview after interview. Man, who have you not had on the show? But you want to kind of run down the list of whom you've had on the show real quick, and then I want to talk about a couple of special ones. One local here to the Dallas-Fort Worth region, and we'll talk about her in a minute. But let's start from not all the way down the list, but who are some of the interesting people you've had on the show?
Well, I mean, we had today was one I enjoyed a lot, and that was Chef Chris Hill.
Yes.
The guy is a major food media influencer. He's been a TEDx speaker. He's got a couple of books out. He has a very interesting perspective on being a chef from the media and marketing side of things.
What was his book called? Something in the
Making the Cut.
Making the Cut. That was it.
Making the Cut. Yep. And he's got another one that'll come out in May that kind of dives a little far into the leadership roles of running a restaurant. But I think it's interesting because it's a guy who has a massive marketing background.
Mm-hmm.
That went into the restaurant industry, had a wildly successful restaurant in Norfolk, Virginia, and kind of branched out. Now the guy is traveling all over the world speaking about food and speaking about, running businesses and marketing with food and things like that. It's because food media is becoming one of the largest media giants that there are. You can't watch something, you can't see something, read something. I don't care if they're selling a car or a light switch. There'll be a food commercial in there. There'll be food being eaten during it. It's every TV show is covered with food.
No, it is. I mean, and it's crazy. I mean, it's become. I don't know if there's ever been a trend this large before, right? Because you have an unlimited audience from 2 to 100. Everyone has to eat to survive, right? So there's a real and valid interest in that. So I don't know if there's ever been the opportunity for a larger market to exist. And you're right. If you're not involved somehow in marketing, virtually via old-fashioned means, and you're in this business, you're in trouble. If you don't know how to engage on social media, you're in trouble. I see it all the time. I am so underperforming on the social media aspect of this. I look at your posts. I've started modeling my posts after what you post on Facebook, by the way. You do a good job. No, you do a great job. I don't always have interviews lined up. I just kind of, I don't wing it. I talk in a more general, more general terms about the industry in across the board. And I don't necessarily get into, these big interviews, although I love to have them. You and Andy and some of the other people that are on the platform do that already. And there's no, other than a few of those really exceptional guests, I mean, they're all exceptional. I don't need to cross over into that and be interviewing the same people. Right? Why? So yeah, I like the fact that, what's really interesting is he's an expert at it. You're already doing it. You've already delved deep in there and you've been doing it. I know you manage some other people's social media pages, some other food service oriented entities, we'll say, and it fascinates me. I mean, so did you? I did not get to listen to yesterday's show. So did he give any tips as far as coming from that PR background? And being so wildly successful, what do you do? I mean, are there any easy things or consistent things that people must do to survive in this industry and get their name out there and keep it out there?
Well, one of the things that you have to understand, I think, first off, and he and I kind of echo this same sentiment, is you have to understand that ever since things like Food Network came along, you cannot, if you want to have a successful restaurant really nowadays, and you're going to start one start one yourself, open a restaurant yourself, you cannot stay buried in the kitchen. You're going to have to be and have to understand and have to embrace being out front. You're going to have to get out there and make fun social media posts. You're going to have to do video, because by 2020, Facebook and Instagram both alike are projecting that 80% of all content on social media will be video.
Yep. That's crazy.
Embrace social media and video, you're going to fall behind to those restaurants. You could be doing world-renowned food. You could be doing lights out, the best food in your community, in your area, and you're going to fall behind the local little small burger joint because they're consistently posting to social media, which is what your audience is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You've got to be out front.
So
that was one big thing we talked about.
And so, this goes back to pre-Food Network, actually. So Emerald's a great example. And Brennan's knew this, right? The Brennan family knew it. And he was at Commander's Palace. And he was really the first, before that, you knew who the chef at Brennan's was, or at Commander's Palace, but no one else did. You only knew it if you went there and you knew the family, or you knew the restaurant, you knew the history of that family and their influence in food. No one else across the country really knew it unless they traveled to New Orleans, happened to go and read the menu. You didn't know. But Brennan's was smart. The Brennan family said, look, you need to get out of the kitchen. And Emerald was not comfortable with that. He wanted to stay in the kitchen and just cook, right? Which is what he does now. He's not on TV anymore. He went out of the kitchen. They forced him out on the floor. And there was born in the United States, besides Julia Childs, right, and to some extent a James Beard, you had right there born the first celebrity chef in the United States. And that moment really changed history in the food service industry. It's iconic. But you're right. If you are not out touching tables, speaking to guests, or, shaking babies and kissing hands, as we say. Oh, sorry, I said that backwards. But, if you're not out there, you're not known. And that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate because if you don't do it, you die on the vine. And it's kind of unfortunate that in this respect, you can't just live in your home anymore. You have to go outside of that comfort zone, even if you don't want to. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you absolutely do. You've got to make yourself available. And then not only that, the second part of that is you have to have interaction. It can't just be 500 pictures of food all the time, because your audience sees that every single day. There has to be not only the difference in the quality of your food, the flavor of your food, why should they eat this burger versus that burger? And that's where social media interaction comes in, of actually answering the comments that come up.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And so that becomes that second play point for that.
So that's another thing on social media, right? And everybody knows it. If you ever watch on Facebook Live and check out my show, I'm terrible. Sorry, terrible. I'm still getting over this cold from last week. Terrible at responding. All right. Doesn't mean I don't love y'all. Doesn't mean I don't appreciate your comments. But I don't comment during the show, because if you've noticed, I'm a very distractible individual. It took me 30 minutes to get through making paella, and it was written down for me. Because I go off, ooh, scallops. Oh, where do you get the scallops from? How do you treat the scallops? Well, what are the best scallops? But I'm terrible at that follow through. I really am. So, hey, actually, this is a good point to make. I have a platform to engage some listeners. If there's someone out there who is a certified or a verifiable specialist in metadata, right, tagging, improving reach, we would love to hear from you here at Spoony Radio, especially if you'd like to work as an intern, or we can trade services. We'll give you publicity. You help us we own the platform. I can talk about anything and anyone I want to, unless I decide not to. So there you go. Anyway, yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. It's time consuming, but it's an absolute necessary now. There's no way to survive without it. And there's no way to grow and thrive. Absolutely no way unless you do that.
Absolutely. You've got to take a look at it. So that's one part of coming out of the kitchen. A lot of us already, would have no problem coming out of the kitchen at the restaurant and greeting a table or things like that. But it's who you are becomes who you are in the public outside of the restaurant. So then the other thing he was talking about is, you know, to get your team engaged. It's we have had so many restaurants go away from family meals.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of those things that kept employees engaged in the restaurant, was that time before the shift started where they all sat around a big pot of God knows what it was, but ate together, talked together, communicated together. And just like that builds a strong family, it builds a strong workforce, so that when you go into the shift, you have employees carrying your same message.
Absolutely. You know, there's another point to that as well. If you feed everyone at the same time, there is that sense of community, right? But also, you have a fixed food cost for that. You know what it costs you to feed your staff, and you give everybody an opportunity or a responsibility to take turns feeding the staff. It should never fall on the same person every day. I mean, you know how it rotates through. It's your day. Mine was Wednesdays and Saturdays. You know, at Matsuhisa up in Aspen, every Wednesday and Saturday night, I cooked for the entire kitchen staff and floor staff, and it rotated through. But it prevents people because everybody has they have time to sit down and eat a meal, and they have a meal provided for them. They don't graze. They don't leave the floor and hide in a corner to eat some food off the, you know, that they steal from the line or are given from a cook. It makes it's also good for food safety because, you know, how many times you see somebody hiding in the corner, like a server comes in like, oh my God, I'm starving. They grab a sourdough roll and a half a cup of biscuit and they eat it in the corner. And then they don't wash their hands before they go back out to the floor. It's I think it's good on so many levels, but you're right. The bonding that occurs during that time, because you spend more time in a restaurant working with your coworkers than you typically spend at home with your family. I think it's absolutely necessary that we go back to those basics. Very few restaurants do that anymore.
And it does, and it'll make a difference because you'll notice your staff will take part in that social media piece as well, because they're happy and they're engaged and they're not trying to look for the next hot place to work to pick up a paycheck. So there's so much to becoming who you are in this whole industry than just, I'm going to put out this plate of food and it's going to be the best plate of food in the world. That's vital. You want that, but it's not the end all be all. It has to include all of these other facets.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And so, I mean, what else? Was there any other input he had? I mean, he's had a very interesting history, you know, about his transition into the spotlight from being a restaurateur. What else did he have to share? I'm listening to that podcast right after the show, by the way, on Spreaker.
Yeah, he's a sharp guy because, you know, he did a lot of this. Like the other thing he does right now is he is an instructor at a culinary institute, and he does marketing. He could teach culinary techniques. He could teach running a restaurant. He could teach financials. He teaches the marketing because just like we take time to learn new recipes and new techniques and new things we may not be strong in, one of the things he talked about quite a bit was taking the time to build your education as far as marketing, media, and promotion. Because as restaurateurs, we're very quick to give a lead server or give the lead bartender somebody or something like that the role of social media manager. And it's because as chefs, we don't have any idea what we're supposed to do with that.
Well,
no idea in the world what we're supposed to do with it.
No, we don't. Again, look, chefs are we're very driven, right? There's not a lot of talking in kitchens. There's a lot of direction in the kitchen. There's not a lot of conversation. There really isn't. And it's for good reason. It's a very intense workplace. It's hot. There are a lot of sharp things flying around. There's open flame, steam shooting out when you open. You know, remember people open those steamers. It can be a very dangerous workplace. It requires a lot of focus. And so but that's how we are. Very pointed people. We're not good at the fluff. A few of us we've had other careers or we just happen to have the gift of gab, right? I'm including you in there, obviously, and like Andy and a bunch of other people. But for the most part, we are not a social group of people until it's time to drink at the end of the night. When the shift is done, the floors are scrubbed, the dishes are put away, and we've planned for tomorrow. That's pretty much it. I mean, it's not something we're familiar with. And that's a really good point. You know, to know that they're doing that in culinary schools now, and they're bringing that expertise into part of the education that's going to be the foundation for the future of the culinary industry, I think it's brilliant. if I'd had somebody 6 or 7 or 10 years ago tell me that it was important for me to learn social media management and gain that reach, I mean, I'd be in a whole different place right now. Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind.
And that's why he was saying, what he stresses is, even if you're not going to culinary school, you haven't gone that route, you're already in your restaurant, running your restaurant, it was take time to get the education.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Just like you're learning a new recipe or technique or a new piece of gear, you've got to incorporate that educational time, that bettering yourself time to understanding marketing and media.
Absolutely. Hey, man, first half hour's already up. You're going to stick around for a little bit. It's great content, and I wasn't even trying to stretch it today. I didn't need to cover anything. I got so much content, it's overpouring. Can you stay through the break? We got about a minute left, but I just want to make sure before we don't cut the listeners short. Cool. So I mean, there's so much to put together when it comes to that. Does his new book touch on that, kind of wrapping the whole package and presenting it all in digestible bites?
Yeah, I think his new book, really being about restaurant leadership as a whole, is going to be one of those things that you'll see is valuable all the way around. It's going to give you those pieces. Now, just like anything, he can't give you every single piece of knowledge inside one book, but he can at least spur your excitement or spur your interest and a couple of points to point you in the right direction to learn more.
Absolutely. So, I want to touch on that in a minute. There's a great book I read about 10, 15 years ago. Excellent book that kind of crosses boundaries, right? It was about this a big company, but it applies to restaurants as well, and some of the things we may be missing and the things that we tolerate that we shouldn't. And I'll tell you why when we come back. Chef Mark Conway here with Patrick Mosher, the Food Biz Pro. We're out for 2 minutes. Oh, it's 4 minutes. Come right back.
This is the only 24-hour take-anywhere platform dedicated to food and fun. We're Spoony.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm John Scott. Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle are blasting the Trump administration's proposed cuts in the State Department budget.
New York's Nita Lowey calling the proposed budget insufficient.
The State Department has never had to operate under the draconian levels proposed by the president.
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo defending the request.
It will protect our citizens at home and abroad and advance American prosperity and values. It will support our allies and partners overseas.
Kentucky Republican Hal Rogers.
I believe you would see more support in Congress if the proposed funding level matched that rhetoric.
For the third straight year, lawmakers are expected to reject the president's call for cuts.
Capitol Hill correspondent Wally Hines. Attorney General William Barr is combing through the special counsel's report on the Russia probe. Judiciary Committee Chairman Senator Lindsey Graham.
The Attorney General is going through the report now to take out grand jury information that can't be disclosed by law. He wants to make sure that there's nothing going to be released to the public or the Congress that would hurt classified information that hurt sources and methods.
There are hopes of releasing that report in April. Also on townhall.com, British Prime Minister Theresa May says she will quit once the country has left the European Union, but she did not set a date. The new year bringing a reduction in the U.S. trade deficit.
An increase in exports and a decrease in imports resulted in the trade deficit tumbling nearly 15% in January. The Commerce Department says exports rose nearly 1%, while imports declined about 2.5%. Shipments of American goods to China fell to their lowest level in more than 8 years, as the world's two biggest economies remained locked in a trade war. But U.S. exports of soybeans, cars, trucks, and auto parts all shot up in January. Mike Hemp in Washington.
More on these stories at townhall.com.
Now you can fly anywhere in the world and pay discount prices on your airline tickets. Book a flight today to London, Paris, Madrid, or anywhere else you want to go and pay a lot less guaranteed. Call the International Travel Department right now at Low Cost Airlines.
800-452-1075. 800-452-1075. That's 800-452-1075. Got an old car? You can donate it, whether it's running or not, to the United Breast Cancer Foundation and save a life. They'll even come and pick it up for free. The United Breast Cancer Foundation has saved hundreds of women's lives through their free or low-cost breast screen exams. But now they need your help. The United Breast Cancer Foundation wants to save more lives through early detection by offering women free or low-cost breast screening exams. And donating your old car, SUV, or truck, whether it's running or not, helps pay for them. Plus, you get a charitable tax deduction. Help the United Breast Cancer Foundation save lives by donating your old car, SUV, or truck. Call now for free pickup. 800-245-0823. 800-245-0823. 800-245-0823. Call right now. That number again is 800-245-0823.
Never Forgotten Apparel is more than just a premium women's and men's clothing line. It's a movement to remind us to wear American-made and serve those who serve us. Our heroes. Never Forgotten Apparel gives 20% of their total sales to nonprofits that support homeless veterans and off-duty firefighters, and 50% to individual veterans and firefighters in need nationwide. Check out neverforgottenapparel.com. Use promo code MATT, M-A-T-T, and get 15% off your purchase.
And once again, we're back. This is the third course of the 2-hour show. What we had, an appetizer? There wasn't much of an appetizer. I just told you how to make paella. We had the meat course, main course there. No, maybe that was the appetizer. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if this is probably the meat of the course. Next will be like an intermezzo, right? We're gonna have a little. Ron's over there, producer Ron, our CEO and president. He's back there. The automation, we have this new automation software, which, it takes a long time to dial in. And you have like 6, 7, 8, 10 days to get all of it perfectly timed. And he just went there because he produced another show simultaneous with mine. And he went into like victory, the hands in the air. And finally, it fired perfectly today. So thank you, Ron. You're a badass. All right, so third course, whatever the hell it is, let's continue talking about this marketing thing, right? So again, we got Chef Mark Conway, the host of Family Meal. If you haven't heard his podcast, it comes on right before mine. He's the only other Spoony show host to have a daily show, by the way. Thank you very much, Mark, for giving us all that fresh content and having such great guests on. But we were talking about this new book that came out. And I'm sorry, it's not out yet, is it?
No, it comes out in May.
Okay, all right. So, but all right, and basically the gist of the book is that it's about leadership in restaurants, right? But marketing is part of that. Being an all-around good general business person, owner, chef, that's really important. There's a great book that was called Monday Morning Leadership. I don't know if you ever heard of this. It probably came out about 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. And the premise of the book, right? This gentleman is a lead, like a senior mid-level management person in his company, and he's having issues, right? His team is not working together well, and basically the guy tells him this, look, there are several rules in business, and one is that if you allow performance at a level below the acceptable level within your company, and you just allow it to happen. Somebody's always consistently late, or they just don't get their work turned in. Somebody's always having to cover for them. What you're doing at that point is you're programming the rest of your staff, right, to allow that to happen. This is not a coaching issue. It's not a training issue. It's an enforcement issue. We all have rules that we have to abide by. We as chefs and owners and managers have a set of rules. So do the hourly employees or salaried employees. There are a set of rules. And when we don't enforce those, what it does is it encourages everybody to drop their standards a little bit, because everyone will start to work at the lowest common denominator, which is whatever you've allowed to be acceptable, because this is someone who is quote unquote irreplaceable, like a dishwasher or a hostess or a rock star server who does great with their sales and makes a lot of money for the restaurant, but they don't do their side work right, or they call in sick every week on a Friday night. They consistently miss work. So consistency right there, I think. I just want to speak on that one topic. As a manager, as an owner, and as a mentor, being consistent in your treatment across the board to each employee is vital. Inconsistency, just like in the restaurant business with your food and service, will kill you. I mean, that's my 2 cents on that particular issue. But you have anything to say on that, Mark? Have you seen where that's gone awry?
Yeah, I mean, consistency is huge. I mean, and when you talk about restaurants, a lot of times you're talking about family restaurants, locally owned restaurants that are family owned. And so you have family working there. You've got cousins, kids, brothers, wives, husbands. It's a really difficult balance to attain when you've got these dynamics. People you just hired in that you don't know anything about, and people that you spend every one of your holidays with.
Mm-hmm.
That becomes incredibly difficult to treat everybody on an equal level, especially when crap hits the fan and mistakes are made. So that's one of those things that the restaurant industry really, I don't want to say suffers from, because I think working with family can be absolutely amazing, but it can also be your Achilles heel to whether you're successful or not.
Absolutely.
You know, is do you have that balance? Can you adjust from when you put on the apron to where you take it off and go home?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a lot of local businesses struggle.
Well, and I've not even just having family. I'll admit to have played favorites, right? So how do you? It's hard to reprimand a line cook making $12 an hour, right? Who's there every time you need them and always does a little more above and beyond the reasonable expectations of the manager or the chef, versus the sous chef, right? It's hard to treat them equally to the sous chef who always like, chef, man, I got to run, man. I got to go run. Come on, my girlfriend's waiting for me. We're going to have a drink. Come meet us at, whatever, wherever we're going. It's hard not to treat them equally when they do manage to incur the same infraction or when they do that. It's so funny. I love when people are in kitchens or I love when people are putting dishes away. That's my favorite thing. Like, cause they hold the phone up to their ear, Mark, when they do that. I love it when they're in a kitchen, yep. And there's a dishwasher next to them running and they're like, hey, I'm sorry, I'm in the kitchen. I love, that's the lifeblood of the restaurant, of the industry, of our, of who we are. And, people are like, oh, that was annoying. No, it's like a baby crying in church. No, it's not. That's music to my ears. Everybody should be here, right? Either in the kitchen or wherever it is that you worship. I worship food, so I have to say, kitchen's the right place
we all
to be.
go down to the altar of food there.
Exactly. Anyway, look, I can't wait for the book to come out. We'll give it another plug as we get closer, and we'll try to broadcast it across as many of our hosts as we can. We don't all have the same formats and same time frame, and some of us are pre-recording way ahead of time. So we'll get the word out there as much as we can. But you actually had a great guest on yesterday, and I want to talk about that a little bit. So, do you want to talk a little bit about give us a little insight into who the Jelly Queens are? Because they're based right here in Dallas, Texas.
Absolutely. They are. They're based right there in Dallas, Texas. I met her a couple of years ago. She is absolutely, unequivocally one of my favorite people on this planet.
And Donna has a very very long name, I'm sorry. Yes.
We'll just go with Donna Collins.
Well, it's Donna. It's Donna Anderson Collins Yamini, I think is her name, right?
Right. But then when that was funny when I was going to have her on. And like I said, we've known each other. We text back and forth. We talk at least every week, if not, even more. But I was like, okay, Don, what do you want me to call you? Because you have like a plethora. Like we have a lot to choose from. And she said, we'll just go with Donna Collins. But you're talking about somebody, and I think it's funny, is people know her as the Jelly Queen there in Texas. And she is the quintessential Texas woman. I mean, everything about her screams Texas. And, she always refers to herself as everybody's grandmother. And she is like that favorite grandmother. Mm-hmm. She's always checking on you and making sure that everything is okay and doing whatever she can to help and support you. But her businesses are pretty amazing.
Well, so she's the wife of the Spice King. Right.
And everybody knows her. They all go looking for her. I met her 2 years ago.
Well, she's better looking than he is. I mean, that's a given.
course.
I'm just joking.
Of course.
Just joking.
I met her a couple of years ago at World Food Championships, and started trying her jellies. And then she's so known at World Foods, and I know we're going to talk a lot about her, but one of the things she's so known about is she does biscuits, scratch biscuits every morning at World Foods. And she goes, takes them into the VIP tent. So if you're ever going to go to World Foods, get the VIP ticket just for this reason. She brings these biscuits in, and I'm telling you, she makes a couple hundred. She is stalked, like literally stalked, and people stand around waiting for these to come in because it's her scratch biscuits, and then she puts an assortment of her jellies out. And I am one of those people that stalk her until those biscuits show up. I don't start my day, I don't leave that area until I've had biscuits.
You know how many people I've seen those comments that, they like her page, they like the Jelly Queens page. I met Donna at the WFC last year. They all are so excited about her product because they tried it at WFC. It is
a phenomenal product.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So what do you guys talk about? Birds and bees, or honey and
a little bit about all that. But I think one of the things we talked about is I always wondered because, with her jams and jellies, they have the most impactful flavor. And so I knew that because you've got people when you say jelly, people immediately go to that stuff you buy in the grocery store for like $1.89 that says grape jelly or strawberry jelly or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's basically like a stiffer version of Jell-O. That's not jelly in its purest form. Jelly in its purest form is something that a lot of restaurants make now because they'll use fruit, excess fruit they have or something they have. They'll make jelly for a brunch and things like that. That's going to be very different than what you get from a grocery store. So we were talking about her processes, how she makes them, that she even had trouble getting somebody to help her jar them because everybody told her jellies had too many ingredients.
Really?
They were like, well, this has too many ingredients. Yeah, absolutely. So when she was going for mass production, after winning season 3 of MasterChef, or being on season 3 of MasterChef, they went through and they said, your jellies just flat out have too many ingredients. We're used to lemon juice, pectin, whatever the flavor is, and a buttload of sugar.
So
said, no, I'm going to...
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, that just goes to show you what is, instead of people being concerned with really making a quality product on a mass level, it's just what can I put out for the cheapest with either an overabundance of salt or an overabundance of sugar.
And not only that, look, if you're a co-packager, so I know that you don't necessarily have those ingredients in-house, but you charge them to do that anyway. I mean, there's just an upcharge for more ingredients, and you have to have a minimum run. It's like typically your first run is 1,000 units, right? Or 100 cases, whatever it happens to be. And I don't understand, are these businesses so flush with money in production that they don't have time to add another product in? I mean, and I would think that you would want to be known, right, for producing such a quality product, because if you look on if you look at a product that's co-packaged, right, which for those of you out there listening, not in the business, have never been in the grocery or retail side of things, co-packing is think of a brand that has a name, Kirkland's, right? So Kirkland's is the brand for what, Costco, or right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's Sam. It's Costco. So anyway, or a Kroger, one of them. It's one of the big brands out there. So Kirkland is their in-house brand. But they don't that company, Sam's, or whoever it is, they don't manufacture that brand. They have another company that already produces those products, modify their recipes to meet their standards or their gold standard recipe. They make a production version of it, and then they can it, and they just put a different label on it. It's the same can that Del Monte comes in or whatever. Like tomato products, there's only like 5 or 4 factories in the United States that make ketchup. Everybody else's comes from there unless you make it in-house. Seriously. There's only one place that does, I think there's only one plant, and I think it's in Bakersfield, California, that does all the baby carrots in the country, or there used to only be one. All those little bite-sized baby carrot things, one plant. All right, so I can't believe that there was nobody out there who would do it. Or maybe there might have been a few that were cost prohibitive, but they really wanted to price it out of the range because they didn't want to deal with so many ingredients, which is sad. But you know what though? It makes it cool, but you can't get her stuff in every single store. I like it better.
Yeah, she is always concerned with what's in season. She's always concerned with making sure that it's a quality product. She's constantly looking at the farms and orchards where these fruits come from. It's not just, all right, I went to Sam's Club and ordered a bunch of strawberries.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the fact that there's a difference in those big giant strawberries you see everywhere, that when you cut into them, the inside's white.
Yep.
Than an actual strawberry that is red all the way through.
And solid.
And it's basically, the more red, the more flavor.
Well, because you're just, so when you have that big gap, that big hole in the middle, that big vacancy, that cavern in there, basically you had something that grew too fast. I mean, they've modified it, or they've enticed it to grow by enhancing the soil in a manner that it just the fruit doesn't actually grow as planned. Yeah, I have a whole. We can get off on that for an hour. Now, once in a great while, though, you'll find those large strawberries that are solid all the way through. Those are the ones they use for dipping, in chocolate. The stem on that they charge you $2 a piece for at the store before they dip them in chocolate, and then it's $6. And those are worth it.
Yeah.
Those are definitely worth it. But you're right; those commercially grown things. Mm-hmm. Mexico and California and some other places too. I'm not knocking any particular area, but you're right. And so how does she find those? Does she does she just spend unending hours trying to find the right providers and growers, or does she have contracts with people?
She really does. She spends time doing the sourcing. She wants to know the people who are putting out the product. She wants, she's talking to them about when the right time to get it, if it's available. And you know what? Sometimes it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the product is just not available because there was a bad season. And right now for fruit's having a lot of issues because of the schizophrenic weather season we've had.
Yeah, it's been bipolar across most of the country. Mm-hmm.
And then she'll find something new, or someone will reach out to her and say, hey, I've got this new product, and she'll develop a whole new line of flavors. So it's really fun to talk to somebody who, even though she's as well known as a jelly queen and her products are stellar, she's constantly striving for that next flavor, that next opportunity, that next way to mutually grow with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And you just don't see a lot of that anymore.
No, and also there are those producers that have fruit, right, that's kind of sitting on the margin. Either that came in late behind the harvest and everybody else is already sold, and they don't necessarily have an outlet for it. And I'm sure she's able to find those as well. I mean, I've seen a couple other businesses that run around that model. There's a place in Fort Collins, right? This is just a lesson in business. The woman that owns and runs the place has a fantastic. It's called Scrumpy's, and Scrumpy's is a cider. It's basically a pub, but it's a cider pub. They have like 18 of their own ciders on tap at any given time, and they're constantly coming up with new and improved or unique products. But what she does is she found a deal on this mobile fruit. Basically, it's a processing machine that takes the pulp out and just leaves the juice behind. So what she does is she finds these people that have orchards or fields or however your fruit is grown. And now she has this whole network of people that call her. And what they do is when something is ripe, but they're not going to have an outlet for it, they call her so they don't lose their entire crop, sell it to her at a steeply discounted price because it's not retail. She's just taking the juice. And they harvest it right there in field. So the minute it's harvested from the tree, they process, and then they take the juice back, and they use the rest is used for compost. But it's brilliant. And so, it's multifold. I'm sure she's working with producers like that, plus just finding these people that have the highest quality product that she needs consistently. And there are very few artists and producers out there. I love it when you come across them. The best place to go, and because we're going to run out of time, I'd love to give Donna the whole rest of this half hour, but I'm going to have her on the show pretty soon. She'll sit right across from me in that chair, and we'll do a little live interview. Look, and you can find her. It's jellyqueens.com. Is that right? And you can find her on Facebook. It's Donna Anderson Collins Yamini, and then the Jelly Queens. If you want to order her product, It's fantastic stuff, I'm telling you. I wish they had broader distribution,
really is.
but I'm glad they're local, so I'm sure she'll bring some samples. But I want to talk to you about this is the 100th year of a really cool thing for us in the culinary industry, especially those involved that have been in restaurants on and off or throughout their entire careers. And it is what, Mark? What is coming up in May?
The National Restaurant Association show.
It's their 100th anniversary show, actually. 100 years ago, this year, they started the National Restaurant Association's national show in Chicago. And dude, this is going to be a big show. We were talking earlier, the innovation that's coming up alone that they're going to highlight this year is mind-blowing.
Everything that you see, if you've never been to an NRA show, and a lot of times I say NRA and people are like, wait, why are you going to a gun show? Not that NRA, the National Restaurant Association NRA show. If you've never been and you're in the culinary field, you need to break away and go. They put up in McCormick Place there in Chicago a city.
Yes,
and,
they do.
I mean, when I say city, it takes an hour to walk from one end to the other. And if it has, even in the most remote way, from cookware to food products to alcohol to the next extract to the next cooking device that's going to revolutionize the restaurant industry, all of it is at NRA. And it's your best opportunity to really get a ton of education on what could take your business from where it is now 10 levels ahead.
Yep. So, question on that: do you think is Vitamix are they going to roll their product out at the show?
That's the rumor, is that
Nice.
people like a Vitamix. This is where they all decide to unveil.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody unveils their newest, latest, and greatest at NRA. So that's the other thing. Is you're going to get
by the way,
they ever hit the market.
listeners, this is not a euphemism for undress in public unveiling. That means to debut their new products. Yes, he meant it literally. Just letting you know, it's not that kind of show. This isn't Vegas. It's Chicago. All right, but yeah, I mean the innovation, like last year with all like Impossible Burger and all the other the plant-based burgers, right? Ingenious, whether you like them or not, ingenious products. There's a huge market for them. But what else are we going to see this year? I mean, last year we saw the the Cali Burger, right? Is it Cali Burger, right?
Yeah.
I went to the innovation seminar last year for a couple of hours, and it was about robotics. And the advancements they've made, where all their burgers in California are now flipped by a robot. You still have to load you have to load it up by hand. You load the griddle, but then they flip everything for you. It's awesome. But
then they also had the robot that learns your floor, learns your floor layout,
delivers
and
food,
ends up delivering the food.
Yep,
Yeah.
Amazing stuff. What else? What do you think we're going to see? What do you think of the trends of the future? I know we've both been doing a little pre-reading, so we're a little up to speed. But what else do you think is coming up this year?
I think you're going to find a whole lot more app-driven everything. I went to a Linux demo here locally a few weeks back, and they were demoing their new combi oven. And the whole base of this combi oven, and if you've ever been around a combi oven, you know that they're an incredible piece of gear that almost nobody knows how to use to the full extent. But almost everything they were doing was with this oven was attached to the cloud. So that every time you, as the head chef of the restaurant chain or the hotel or whatever it was, updated a recipe on your computer, you sent it to the cloud. It went to every oven you have attached to the cloud.
So for people that don't know what a combi oven is, right? It's basically it's an Instapot compared to the 1969, 1972 model of a crock pot. It's programmable. It doesn't just use one heat source. They have radiant heat. They have convection heat. They have microwave as well. So you can cook a turkey in like 38 to 50 minutes. A 12, 16 pounder. I mean, it's phenomenal what you can do in those things.
The combi oven lets you, and here's the big kicker. I think that's the most fascinating thing for a combi oven. It allows you to cook with moisture control at any temperature.
That's
because everybody knows steam cooks in at 212 degrees. That's when you get steam. Well, if you don't want to just completely obliterate something at 212 degrees, you could cook at 160 with humidity in the box.
Exactly.
You could cook at 400 with humidity in the box.
Well, so you could actually, so here you can proof in there, right? A lot of bread, it's important. So you can proof inject steam, which is how you get the crust. If you don't, people don't know this, but you actually create that thick crust like on a baguette by injecting steam into the oven. So the commercial ovens have steam injection ports in them. The non-commercial ones, we used to throw ice cubes on the deck to create steam, to generate that steam, to allow it to stay soft long enough to develop that crust. But these ovens are unbelievable because they do it all for you as long as it's programmed.
Right, and and a lot of these companies that put these things out, and you've got a mire to these companies. You know, you've got Lennox, you've got AltoSham, you've got Rationale, you've got multiples that are doing this, and all of them have employee chefs. And this just goes, it goes into a little side anecdote about the fact that, just because you become a chef doesn't mean you will spend your entire career inside the kitchen of a restaurant somewhere. These companies hire chefs all the time just to go around and teach people how to use the gear.
Absolutely. That's a good point. We see a lot of, oh God, we're already out of time, man. Can you still work for, you know what? I got Wind Down Wednesday come up. Hey, Mark, we'll get you to call in next week. We'll do another update. Man, I know you got great guests coming up. Anybody real quick, 5 seconds. Who's coming up in the next day or so?
We've got several chefs. One of them is Letty Alvarez, who has been a really well-known national chef. She is a gem. She's been on Food Network.
Cool.
About everywhere.
She on tomorrow?
See her, so she's going to come on.
Awesome. Hey,
she'll be on next week.
Thanks, brother. All right, Mark Conway, Family Meal. Catch him. He's on right before my show every day, Monday through Friday.
Follow Chef
we'll
Patrick
be right
Mosher on Twitter @Food Biz
Have you done it? You catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror?
I'm one of those people you don't want to see naked.
Yeah, most of us. But I mean, you look and you're going, what the?
I know.
How did I get to whatever?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, it's horrible. Hey there, it's Doc Thompson and Brad Staggs to tell you about a different way to shed those pounds. This is brand new tech. It's only been around for a couple of years or so. It was based on research from the University of California that said there's a molecule called OEA that's found naturally in your body. It produces it in the Mediterranean diet, that when taken in concentrated amounts, it will actually make you feel fuller and boost your metabolism.
I've lost about 10 pounds so far.
It's amazing.
It
now,
really is cool.
A company said, we can take this to market and make this great product that'll help you. It's called RidUZone, RIDUZone.com, RIDUZone.com. It's Brad's worked. It's worked for Brad's, worked for me, countless other people. Go to RidUZone.com and try today. You're going to love it. RidUZone.com. Remember that, RIDUZone.com.
Take the pain out of ordering your diabetic testing supplies with Diathrive. Diathrive ships the testing supplies you need directly to you when you need them. Best of all, with plans starting as low as $8 a month, Diathrive is probably going to cost you less than what you're paying today. Diathrive is so convinced that you'll love their service, they're offering your first month of supplies free. Simply type the code DOC, D-O-C, at checkout. Diathrive.com. That's DIA Thrive.com.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-570-6630. 800-570-6630. That's 800-570-6630. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
And we're back. Yep, we're back. Chef Patrick Mosher, Food Biz Pro. We are on fourth course of today's show. That's right, every day, Monday through Friday, day in, day out, you get 2 live hours with me. Man, or ladies. We have so many ways to listen now. You can watch live on Facebook at Spoony Radio. You can go to, we don't push that to Periscope on Twitter. I need to do that. I need to share that link. Let's see. You can go to Spoony Radio, or I'm sorry, Spoony.com. You can listen live there. That will take you directly to the iHeartRadio app or the iHeartRadio channel. You can listen to any of the shows live, well, even if they're replays, at their time slots. Let's see. You can go to Spreaker.com, look for Spoony Radio. You can look for my show. So here's one of the cool things that's coming up. All the shows in the next, several days, might be as much as a week. We've got them all programmed and ready to go. But as soon as I get confirmation from all of our show hosts that they understand the time that their show debuts on which day each week, then we're going to have all the shows up Every time a new show launches, whether it's daily or weekly, we'll have them up on Spreaker about 20 minutes after their show airs. It'll be automated. It'll go right up. You can listen to them on podcast, on the Spoony Radio channel, on Spreaker. That's a big thing for us. Now we can start figuring out how many people are listening every day. But in the meantime, I believe I have Laura Geen on. Laura, are you there? See if it actually answered or not. There we
Patrick.
go. There we go. Let me see if it muted you. I clicked it twice. There you are. Okay. I hear you. I just want to make sure I didn't hang up on you. How are you today? It's Wind Down Wednesday.
It is. I'm great. The sun is out. How are you?
You know, I'm pretty good. I don't have any wine today. I don't. I have a really beautiful bottle of olive oil from the Dow Vineyards. Have you heard of that one?
No, I have not.
Oh man, it's a estate grown on Dow Mountain. I want to say this is near Paso Robles. I think. Let's make sure. I don't know where that comes from, but I had some wine from that vintner a few nights ago with these lovely people, the Sokolowski. Valerie, who has another podcast called Doing It Right, and she hosted Doc and our VP of Sales Tom and myself about I think it was in January 16th it aired. She's a fantastic, she's an amazing coach, business and life coach, and her husband Doug, who was he was an exec for let's see, IBM and other large high tech companies back in the day. What a great couple! As a matter of fact, their son. Their son was an actor. He played the younger male doctor on Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. He's going to be doing a show, actually. We're going to put together a show he's going to do where he brings in some wine from his vintner friends in California, and we'll talk about those a little bit. Hopefully I'll get to drink some, but, I doubt it because it's going to be recorded. So no wine love for Patrick Mosher here. But there is a little wine love because it's Wednesday. And I loved the concept of Wine Down Wednesday. You guys started a few years back up in Bentonville. I don't have any wine, so I'm going to have a little Knob Creek bourbon whiskey here.
Okay.
So, I know.
Whiskey's always good.
I didn't have time to leave the studios this morning, but when I did have time, there was nowhere to buy wine. It was too early, so I failed. Mission not accomplished.
It's all right. I'm going to make it up for you. I'm going to make it up for you because I have lots of wine.
I'm going to pretend this is wine. I'm going to smell it, pretend it's a bouquet of wine, but that definitely doesn't smell like wine. Okay. So what are we going to talk about today? Excite me. What are we going to have?
So because spring is in the air, and we are doing a tasting here at Ramo d'Olivo in our wine shop Thursday. From 5 to 6:30, we are going to be tasting some really interesting rosés and an Abarino, which is a Spanish white. Mm-hmm. So I thought we would talk a little bit about rosé wine and how diverse it is and how special and beautiful it is, not just the color, but all the different notes and flavors, and easy to drink and perfect to be outside with or entertain with. We love rosé. So
I want to talk about rosé for a minute, right? Because the original rosés, like in Europe, do you know where the original rosés come from, right?
Well, probably Provence.
Actually, the original rosés come from Switzerland. Tafel, Tavel, Tafel wine, and they still call the others rosé, but I think they were the first ones to do that, and they're some of the most famous in all of Europe. Now, they were anyway, but now, of course, nobody knows Switzerland for wine anymore. But I think here we used to use rosé as an escape or a kind of a cop-out just to get rid of the grapes that we might have had left over that you didn't that you didn't use for reds. And but now, I mean, the quality of rosés that are coming out now is so much better. It's not that sweet, slightly cloying, pink wine we're used to. So, tell us what you're drinking right now. What is that all about?
So I'd love to. So one of the reasons why we love rosé so much is not only is it beautiful in color, and there's such a variety of colors, but like you hit on, it's all different types of grapes. So actually, rosé is like the hip wine right now. Mm-hmm. There's we have rosés from Washington, Oregon, California, France, Italy, and South America. So I'm actually drinking one that's called Calcu. It's a Reserva Especial from Chile, and it is a Malbec rosé, and it doesn't even have a hint of sweet. So the thing about rosés, some of them can be a little bit fruit forward, but a lot of them can be very dry. So this one is very dry. It's beautiful, light pink color, and it almost tastes like a Sauvignon Blanc. It has that the citrusy notes that people love in a white wine, and so that makes it just so delicious. And the other thing, what we love about South American wines, not only do they all go, a lot of them go to the screw tops now, but they're affordable. So this is an incredibly affordable glass of wine. So you don't have to just stop at one, or just go ahead and get the bottle.
You know, and that's another. We talked about that. So a lot of the even though Chilean wines are becoming more well known and more celebrated, even the Chilean wines, Argentinian wines are still extremely inexpensive, but Chilean wines are still very reasonable as compared to California, the northwestern coastal wines, and versus the old growth Spanish and French wines, of course, but. I want to ask you a very specific question about this, because rosé, we think of, pink wine, peachy colored wine. There is a huge variety and variation in color, but how do they get the coloration in the wine? Because rosé, I mean, is it a white wine? Is it a red wine? Which grapes do they come from, and how do they get the coloration to not be so dark red or so clear white?
Well, most of them are actually red wines. So get the coloration from the actual skins of the grapes, and that's why there's a variety of colors. So the one that I have right now, the Calcu, is a Malbec. So a Malbec is actually a very dark red wine, and so it's the amount of contact with the actual the skin of the grape. So it's a lot less contact than when they make a red wine, so it gives it the lighter pink color. And also it totally changes the taste of it, because it's they do it a little earlier, so it has that residual sugar. So that's where everyone thinks that they have all the sugar, but some of them are when they mint them, there isn't that much sugar, because a Malbec is not a really sugary grape.
Yeah.
The other wine that I have here was pretty interesting also. It's Uruguayan, and it's Pinot Noir and Chardonnay.
Ooh.
So this is a combination of a red and a white grape. So, of course, that changes the color of it as well. It's even lighter in color, but very interesting to mix the grapes as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I did. So if anybody's ever had a Blanc de Noir champagne or sparkling wine, so what they do is they take a red grape and they make a white or lighter colored champagne out of it, and it's the same process. So they don't take off all the skin off all the grapes, but there's again, you're right. The contact is for a shorter period of time before they remove the juice at that point, and then remove all the other stuff that's stuck in. But when you make a red wine, part of getting all that tannin, don't they leave part of the vine, like a certain amount of vine, or they a breakage from that vine into the must when they start the entire process for a certain period of time till they get the right tannic content? They take all that out, and they don't allow any of that. And I think in the rosés, do they?
Right. So it's less contact. They take everything out earlier on, and in red wines they leave it all in. They leave the stems, they leave the seeds, they leave the skins in for the entire time that they're vinting that wine. But the rosés, they only leave it for a shorter amount of time. That gives it the pink color from the actual skins of the grapes. And I do not think that they put like you said, they do not put the stems or the vines in it.
Yeah, well,
I think that is something that's left out.
Yeah, that tannic flavor, that mouthfeel that you get, that drying mouthfeel, it just doesn't, for some reason, does not go with white or rosé wines. They may leave a little bit in for the rosés, but I've never really had that. I mean, we always talk about tannins as being part of red wine. I can't imagine they leave any of that in, because, people think, the seeds are very tannic, as is the skin on red grapes. But man, if you put that bark, that twig in your mouth, that the actual part of the vine that the grapes come on, Oh my goodness. It's like, I don't know, if you pulverize the seeds, right, dried them out, ground them up, and then you just wipe that on your tongue. That's how drying it is. It's almost unbearable. It's like that bitter beer face, where it looks like the guy's going to turn inside out.
Right.
That's the pucker it gives. But so why do you think they've been so underrated? Do you think it's because we were programmed that rosés were like the less experienced, inexpensive wine drinkers go-to, or was it just we didn't have them available?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both, and then I also think that it's the white Zinfandel, the lag of the white Zinfandel. So, the Beringer made the white Zinfandel, and everyone thinks of that as their grandma's wine or their mother, depending on your age. And it was uber sweet, and it was light pink, and so I think rosé's got a bad rap. Everyone thought it was sweet. Oh, I don't like it. It's sweet. And really, most of these are not. They're dry. They're delicious. There's all kinds of fruit in them. They have, each one is different. The French like to use a Grenache. The Californians like to do a mix. They'll do a Grenache and a Mourvedre. There's so many wonderful rosés are also different. So my opinion is to just try them all. Like, don't worry about it. Just buy one and try it, because you never know which one you're going to fall in love with, because they're all so beautiful and different. It's just fun to drink.
And you're right. They have their own personality, right? Now, I have to tell you, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, the Beringer, white Zinfandel, again, like the Fumé Blanc, like so many other big wines that were, these big selling wines. And it's still, look, Beringer White Zinfandel is still a huge selling wine. They were a marketing ploy to get rid of grapes they couldn't sell otherwise. Like the Fumé Blanc, they didn't know what to do. Nobody knew what Sauvignon Blanc was. They couldn't sell it. And so, they came up, was it Mondavi, I think, came up with the name Fumé Blanc, and they used that smoky that they used they say it often in France, when those clouds roll in and they kind of envelop the hills in the morning. It's that foggy look, that smoke rolling over. They use that to market the product. And that was the only way they could sell it, because nobody knew what the hell the grape was. It's kind of the same thing. Nobody liked Zins, 35 years ago, when that probably came out. How many people knew what a Zinfandel was? Even most people didn't drink straight cabs. We drank Chianti back then. I know when I was a kid, they'd bring you went to every Italian restaurant, just had Chianti in a bottle with the little wicker wrapper on it. Nobody knew.
We've become so much more sophisticated.
Absolutely.
It's crazy how much more sophisticated we have. And you're right about the white Zinfandel. I think it was a marketing tool, but I also think it was a mistake. I remember hearing the story that they accidentally made it, and they're like, "Ooh, this is sweet. No one will like it. Well, let's just slap a label on it and discount it." And that's one of the reasons why it was so inexpensive. And in the 80s, people just gobbled it up. They had no idea that they created a phenomenon. That sweet white Zinfandel was so popular.
So I have so the. Again, so I'm a little mistaken on the origin. Some of the oldest wines were actually recorded wines were rosés, because they just limited the contact with the skin. But so there I was wrong. But there are some great Swiss Tafel wines. These wonderful rosés. I'm looking at some right now, but I can't wait to try that Pinot Chard blend. Yes. What is that one? Who is that? That's a French one, you said?
So. No, this is actually from Uruguay. It's Uruguayan, and it's a Marechal Reserve collection. So Marechal is the vineyard, and they produce some amazing wines. And so this is one that is new to us. We're just tasting it. We are definitely putting this one on our list. And so Uruguay means river of painted birds in their native language, and this is just a great varietal. It's beautiful. This is grown near the Atlantic Ocean, and the flavors are complex and intense. And it is oak fermented, but it has a very, very light rosé color. and I think that's because of the Chardonnay, because we have Pinot Noir grapes, which are red, and then the Chardonnay grapes that are white. So it's just a fabulous little combination. Yeah, next time you're in town, I'll definitely pour you a glass.
Oh, that's awesome. You know, I love to try new wines. And there's this new. Okay, a couple of weeks ago when I was the victim of choice or guest of choice, I'm not sure, on Dr. Ken Brown's. He's the guy. He's the doctor, gastroenterologist, the butt doctor, as he says, who does a live show out of the Spoony radio studios on Thursday mornings. It's fascinating what he comes up with, but he's such a researcher. He came across this site that I pinned yesterday, and it's called ingredientpairings.com. And so we all wonder why, these flavors that seem to be, just extremely this extreme juxtaposition of flavors, like the tannins in red wine. This big, bold red wine goes so well with this fatty, juicy, filet mignon, or butter goes so well with this flaky biscuit, and people think it's either a contrast. Or some sort of similar comparison in flavors that creates that that great explosive, melody in your mouth, right? Well, it has nothing to do with that at all. It has to do with molecular structure and whether they're similar or not, and not in flavor profile, but in actual shape. It's very cool. So you can actually go to this it's called ingredientpairings.com. It's from Recipe Labs, and it's this British. They designed it in Britain. But you type in, say, tamarind or basil. I'm just reading right off the website, or tomatillo, and then from that, you can pull up. There's a list of proteins that you can choose to pair with that. Right. What I want to work with is, because one of the most difficult foods. Okay, let me back up one step. This is a new tool for both chefs and people who are not necessarily sommeliers, but people who are in the food and beverage business that pair food with wine on a frequent basis. This is a new way for us to really figure out how to discern that perfect pairing. And it's really important for this reason. You have these difficult foods that it seems almost impossible to pair something with, especially wine. And that one of those foods is asparagus, right? Asparagus is one of the most difficult foods to pair wine with, because nothing has that exact flavor profile, and there is no opposing flavor and aroma profile to that, right? So I'm going to look and see if I can find. I mean, you probably have a perfect pairing for it. I'm sure you do.
I don't know that I do, now that you say that, but you know what? There are some really wonderful German wines that have that almost a vegetable taste. Yes, that might be something that you would put with asparagus. I am not sure.
Okay,
because those are not my favorite go-tos.
Okay, so this is funny because I was thinking along the same lines, and my reason was a little different. All right, those Gewürztraminer almost have that little bit of petulance, the tiny, just almost indiscernible, indetectable amount of carbonation, the bubbles that you get with sparkling wines and champagne, but they have a little bit of that. Plus, they have that. There's a sharpness to the wine, and you're right. There's almost like a Chablis, almost a sharp chalkiness or vegetable undertone, and so they tend to go really well with spicy foods or stuff that's really hard to pair. But my thought was even simpler, because I learned this in culinary school. Bubbles go with everything, for the most part, right? So if you have a middle of the road, not too dry, not too sweet or fruity, we'll say champagne or sparkling wine, or beer or something else with bubbles, that typically cuts through everything and will pair well with almost everything. Look, is there anything beer doesn't go with that you can think of? Certain beers don't, but
well, and I think you're right. I think you're right. Beer is probably the perfect pairing for asparagus, because it isn't necessarily a wine vegetable, but however, what do you serve asparagus with typically? You're going to serve it with maybe a chicken dish, or maybe in a pasta dish, or maybe with salmon. So actually, I think your wine pairing is going to go with the other dish, and it just kind of goes with. the asparagus. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know that makes sense. And well, I have to tell, Ralph Dobson was our wine and spirits instructor and at the culinary school in Denver. I went to school, and I have to say, that was one of the best things I learned from him, because when I couldn't pair anything else, I would just look for the right champagne or sparkling wine or the right beer profile or style of beer. And that it was actually, it helped me so much, because a lot of times I couldn't find a wine to pair with specific foods, especially when you have things like, I do this. I don't know. You didn't get to come to the wine dinner I did at Fred's, but one of the courses was a snapper that I did. I did like a tapenade with it, but I also had capers 3 ways. I did the capers in the tapenade, I did fried capers, and then I did huge caper berries. Well, that sour, and the richness of the tapenade with all the olive oil and the garlic and the parsley in there. It's not hard to pair, but a lot of wines don't stand up against it. But when you put something with bubbles with it, it just cut through it all. It cut through the acid, it cut through the fat. And it cut through the overpowering, what could be overpowering with garlic, and because you put a lot of parsley in that as well. And so I'll tell you, Ralph Dobson, I don't know where you are, and he founded also what was called, it was the American Wine Guild, and I know they're still around. I don't think he's a member of it anymore, but I'm telling you, it saved my life so many times when I didn't know what to pair with food. And beer, like I said, I like beer a lot, so.
Well, and Cava is such a great spring wine as well. So Cava is a Spanish version of sparkling wine, and I would think that the Cava would have been great with your tapenade or your asparagus dish.
Absolutely.
So you're right, the bubbles and the sharpness of it, because it's not sweet like a Prosecco. So I think that would work really well.
That played perfectly into what I was talking about earlier, which I'm sure you missed. But it's National Spanish Paella Day, so I went through the classic Valencian version of seafood paella, and a Cava with that, or an Estrella beer, from Madrid, that would be. I think
that'd be awesome.
That would be the perfect pairing right now. I so want a glass of Spanish sparkling wine right now. Cava would be awesome. I'm going to have to look around and see if I can find some.
Cava is delicious and refreshing. Yes, it is. And then the other white wine that we have is the Albarino.
Oh,
nice,
yes.
Would go with your paella.
So the Albarino, is that the Portuguese, or is that Spanish?
It is Spain.
Okay.
It's Spanish. And it is their white wine. That's their national white wine. It's the Albarino, and it's a fabulous. It's crisp. It's it's not really a Sauvignon Blanc. It's not really a Chardonnay. It's just its own deliciousness, and it goes great with spicy food. With a lot of flavor.
I want to say that Portugal does. I think it's pretty much the same white wine. Like Praia Vino Verde is what they call it. That's just their standard white wine. But it's amazing the variety of grapes that we don't see in the United States that they have in Europe. I mean, it's unbelievable how many different of these small regional grows that they have that are one of the only places you can find specific grapes. It's fantastic. There's so many little gems to find in all over Europe. I wish I could. Someday soon, I will again travel the globe.
And you can travel within your local wine shop, like our wine shop.
You know what?
Somebody told me, somebody told me that there's like 750 types of varietals of grapes that they make wine from,
right.
But there's only a certain amount of actual ones that we relate to, like Zinfandel, Merlot, Pinot Noir, Syrah, Chardonnay, Malbec. We only have so many that we actually know, but there's so many actual grapes out there that are blended into some of these. Like you said, we don't know all of their white wine varietals from Portugal, and we probably couldn't pronounce them anyway, right?
No, I can't. Look, I don't speak Portuguese. I don't pretend to. But hey, what would be really fun? I just thought about this, because you could take a world tour on wines, but you don't have to do the whole world. If we could figure out which growing regions are on the same parallel around the world, some of the classic growing regions, and then we could trace those. I got the idea from this. There was a restaurant called Parallel 33 in San Diego, and I used to go there all the time.
Right.
It was basically I forget, where you, like between Hillcrest and where you go down towards the airport. All right. It was right there along, I forget what area of town that's called, but it's beautiful. Anyway, they closed maybe 10 years ago or so after I'd left San Diego. So, but what they did is they took the 33rd parallel, followed around the world, and chose dishes from around the globe along that line, along that parallel, that line, and they put their own spin on those foods. And it was brilliant. It was absolutely stunning.
It is brilliant.
What they came up with. But I think if we could choose wines from one, at least between two, closely related parallels, maybe within 5 degrees, and pick regions there and pick wines, and then do a dinner pairing with that we could do it right there at Ramo. That would be really fun. I'd love to come up and do that.
I think that's a great idea.
I need a reason to visit
great
Bentonville.
Idea. Yes, a reason to visit Bentonville, and then that gives me a wine assignment. So now I have to figure out a parallel and pick out some wines.
Okay, so
maybe I can work on that for next week.
so yeah, well, what we could do then, if you do that, but so you'll have to tell me the parallel you're going to use, and then from there I'll go ahead and I'll start working on the food. You can take your time. There's no rush for this because I'm not coming up in the next couple of weeks. I'll tell you that. But yeah, it's going to be fun.
Right.
Hey, do you have a favorite kitchen gadget that you use?
Me?
Uh-huh.
My lemon squeezer.
Really?
I have my citrus squeezer.
Awesome.
Yes, I use it for everything.
So here's why I asked that.
What about you?
Well, you know what? My knife. I use my knife for everything. I literally use it to crush things, to chop things, to as a can opener if I had to. Don't do that with your knife, please. But it's my all utility tool. What I'm going to start doing, these videos. And please, if you're a regular Spoony listener, go to info@spoony.com and you can send something in too if you'd like, Laura, you and Tom. What I'm going to start doing is these short videos. I'm going to start getting things. They're not going to be sent to us by vendors. I'm going to buy them. Spoony Radio will buy them. We'll bring them in. And I'm going to do this short form content for YouTube about this kitchen gadget. How do you use it? Is it worth it? Give a true review. Thumbs up, thumb down, thumb sideways. Give you some kitchen tips. Demystify tools for the average cook at home so you don't have to be a pro. Anyway, I'm going to start that within the next 10 days to 14 days. I just need to find the time to film that. But anyway, Laura, as always, it's a pleasure. Well, we love you. Give Tom a big hug from me. Anything else from you? We'll talk to you next week on Wind Down Wednesday.
All right. Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks.
Talk to you later.
Bye-bye. All right, listeners. Yep, you've been through 4 courses. The show is over. Go do something. Join me in a drink. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Shut her down. Go home early. I don't care. You can't stay here. Ciao for now. Talk to you tomorrow.